The arrow embedded itself in the oak door frame, missing Dominic Reed's head by inches. His body reacted before his mind processed the threat, tackling both alien princesses to the polished marble floor as his eyes scanned. The estate gardens for the shooter. Stay down, he commanded, his voice low and steady. The weight of responsibility pressed on his broad shoulders as heavily as his tactical gear. Beneath him, Princess Talia's iridescent violet skin had paled to a soft lavender, her silver eyes wide with fear. The delicate crystalline structures that adorned her temples, a mark of Australis, royalty, caught the sunlight streaming through the estate windows. Her twin sister, Princess Vex, was already struggling against his protective hold, her amethyst skin darkening with fury. "Release me," Vex hissed, her angular features twisted in defiance. "I can defend myself." Dominic's calloused hands remained firm. "Not until I secure the perimeter." His fingers tapped a subtle rhythm against the floor as he calculated trajectories and potential sniper positions. 8 years in Special Forces operations had taught him to think 3 steps ahead of any threat. The estate's head of security, an aging man named Baxter, with a permanent scowl etched into his weathered face, approached with measured steps. "The grounds are being searched, sir. The intruder appears to have escaped through the northern wall." Dominic finally lifted his weight from the princesses, extending a scarred hand to help Talia rise. Her 6 fingers, slender and cool to the touch, hesitated before accepting his help. The contact sent an unexpected jolt through both of them, her silver eyes meeting his dark ones with curious intensity. "This is the 3rd attempt this month," Baxter continued, his voice dropping to a whisper. "Their Highnesses cannot continue with public appearances." Vex stood without assistance, adjusting her ceremonial, armor-beautiful silver plates, inlaid with pulsing blue energy lines that seemed more decorative than functional. "We are not prisoners," she declared, her accent giving the words a musical quality despite her anger. Dominic surveyed the princesses critically. When he'd accepted this assignment from the Interstellar Protection Agency, he'd expected entitled royalty. What he hadn't expected was to be living under the same roof with them, responsible for their safety around the clock. "Your armor is impractical," he stated bluntly. "Too heavy for quick movement, too ornate for concealment. Training starts tomorrow." Talia's head tilted slightly, the movement causing the small luminescent dots along her hairline to shimmer. "You intend to teach us combat, Mr. Reed." "I intend to keep you alive, Your Highness." Later that evening, Dominic established his quarters in the wing, connecting to both princesses' chambers. The Earth Australis Coalition had spared no expense in retrofitting the isolated countryside estate with both human and alien technologies. Through his window, he could see Talia's silhouette moving in her room, her graceful form casting elongated shadows as she performed what appeared to be a ritual of some kind. The assassination. Its attempt had been too precise, too calculated. Someone with intimate knowledge of the princess's schedule had provided intelligence. As Dominic methodically cleaned his weapons and installed additional security measures, he contemplated the complexities of his assignment. These weren't just foreign dignitaries, they were entirely foreign beings. The first royal representatives from Australis to visit Earth since the historic alliance had been formed. Their safety was more than a job. It was crucial to interplanetary relations. A soft knock interrupted his thoughts. Talia stood in his doorway, her formal attire replaced by flowing garments that seemed to shift colors with her movements. "I wanted to thank you," she said, her voice musical in the quiet evening. "For your quick actions today?" Dominic nodded, uncomfortable with gratitude. "Just doing my job, Your Highness. Please. When we are not in formal settings, call me Talia." Her silver eyes studied him with unsettling intensity. "Your file says you left military service after the Nexus conflict. You were highly decorated." His jaw tightened. "My file says too much. Not enough, I think." Her head tilted again, those luminescent dots along her hairline pulsing gently. "You carry heavy burdens, Dominic Reed." Before he could respond, Vex appeared behind her sister, her amethyst skin almost black in the dim light. "Sister, you should not be here." Her eyes narrowed at Dominic. "Humans cannot be trusted completely. Yet one has been assigned to protect us. Talia countered softly. Dominic rose from his chair, towering over both aliens, despite their above-average height. Trust is earned, not assigned. Starting tomorrow, we work on your survival skills. As the princesses departed, Dominic returned to his security preparations with renewed focus. The estate held too many vulnerabilities, too many ways for enemies to infiltrate. And somewhere, perhaps even within these walls, someone wanted the Australis princesses dead. He would not fail this mission. Not like he had failed his team in the Nexus conflict. Tomorrow would bring the beginning of transformation from vulnerable targets to capable survivors. Whether the princesses were ready or not, their royal upbringing was about to collide with military discipline. And Dominic Reed was nothing if not disciplined. The pre-dawn mist clung to the estate grounds as Dominic led the princesses through their first training session. Dew-dampened grass soaked the hems of their simplified training attire, functional garments that Dominic had insisted replace their ceremonial armor. Combat isn't about strength, he explained, positioning Talia's arms with firm but gentle hands. It's about leverage, timing, and using your opponent's momentum against them. The contact between them lingered a moment longer than necessary. Talia's violet skin seemed to pulse with an inner light where his fingers had been. Her silver eyes followed his movements with intense concentration. Like this, she asked, executing a fluid defensive maneuver that showed surprising natural grace. Dominic nodded. Good. Again, but faster. Across the training area, Vex attacked a practice dummy with controlled fury. Her movements were precise, but rigid. Each strike delivered with perfect form, but predictable rhythm. You're fighting angry, Dominic observed, stepping behind her to adjust her stance. Her muscles tensed at his proximity, but she didn't pull away. Anger makes you predictable. Anger keeps me focused, she countered, her amethyst skin darkening with exertion and frustration. So does discipline. Dominic demonstrated a complex series of strikes that utilized momentum rather than brute force. Your physiology is different from mine, lighter bone structure, enhanced flexibility. Use those advantages. As the sun climbed higher, their training intensified. Dominic pushed both princesses beyond what they believed themselves capable of, his military precision demanding excellence. When Talia stumbled during a particularly challenging sequence, his strong arms caught her, their faces momentarily inches apart. I've got you, he murmured, his usual stoicism briefly replaced by something softer. Talia's silver eyes widened, the crystalline structures at her temples glowing briefly brighter. Yes, she whispered. I believe you do. The moment shattered as Baxter approached. His weathered face creased with concern. Sir, security has detected unusual activity near the eastern perimeter. Thermal imaging shows someone observed the estate for nearly an hour before. Retreating, Dominic's protective instincts flared immediately. Show me the footage. In the estate security center, monitors displayed multiple camera angles and sensor readings. Dominic studied the thermal signature that had lingered just beyond their outer defenses. They're mapping our security patterns, he concluded, fingers tapping against the console. Learning our routines? Vex's angular face hardened. The Obsidian Order? They've found us. Dominic turned to her sharply. You know who's behind this? Talia and Vex exchanged glances laden with unspoken communication. Finally, Talia nodded. There are factions within our world who oppose the alliance with Earth. The Obsidian Order is the most radical. They believe our royal family has betrayed Australis by sharing our technology. That information wasn't in my briefing, Dominic said, frustration evident in his tone. Some matters are considered internal to Australis, Vex replied, her voice tight. Dominic's dark eyes narrowed. Not anymore. Not if they're trying to assassinate you on my watch. I need to know everything, their tactics, their resources, their objectives. After a tense moment, Talia placed her six-fingered hand on his arm. You're right. We will tell you everything. That afternoon, their training shifted focus. Dominic incorporated specific countermeasures against Australis combat techniques, developing strategies that utilize the princess's unique physiological advantages. Trust exercises, he announced, positioning himself between them. Your lives might depend on following my lead without question. The sisters moved in synchrony, their bodies flowing around Dominic's larger frame in choreographed defensive formations. Talia's movements became more confident, her natural grace enhanced by newfound strength. Even Vex's rigid discipline began to soften into something more fluid and unpredictable. As evening approached, Dominic prepared a simple meal for them in the estate's kitchen, dismissing the usual staff. Too many unknowns, he explained, his scarred hands moving with surprising dexterity as he chopped vegetables. Until we identify the security breach, we minimize exposure. You cook as well? Talia asked, watching him with evident fascination. Survival skill. Good nutrition builds strong teams. When a young staff member entered to collect dishes, Dominic acknowledged him with a respectful nod that seemed to surprise both princesses. You treat the servants as equals, Vex observed after the young man had left. Dominic's expression remained neutral. In my experience, the people others overlook see everything. They hear everything. They know everything. His gaze intensified. Someone in this household is feeding information to your enemies. Don't discount anyone based on their position. Later that night, as Dominic reviewed security footage, Talia appeared in his doorway. She had abandoned her formal attire for a simple robe that shimmered with her movements. I couldn't sleep, she confessed, the crystalline structures at her temples glowing softly in the dim light. Dominic gestured for her to enter, closing his security tablet. Training was intense today. You did well. It's not the training that keeps me awake. Her silver eyes met his. It's the knowledge that someone wants my sister and me dead simply for building peace between our worlds. Something in her vulnerability stirred a protective instinct in Dominic that went beyond professional duty. We'll find them. I believe you will. She moved closer, studying the scars on his exposed forearms. These marks, they tell your story, don't they? Dominic rarely spoke of his past, but something about her directness disarmed him. Some of it. Not all scars are visible. On Astralis, we believe scars are sacred proof that you survived something meant to break you. Her 6 fingers gently traced a particularly jagged line across his wrist. You have survived much, Dominic read. The touch sent unexpected warmth through him. Before he could respond, his security tablet beeped with an alert. The motion sensors on the north side of the estate had been triggered. Stay here, he commanded. Retrieving his weapon from its holster, Talia's expression hardened with newfound determination. No, we train together, we fight together. For a moment, Dominic considered arguing, then nodded curtly. Stay behind me. Alert your sister. As they moved through the darkened corridors, Dominic realized the princesses were no longer simply his assignment, they were becoming his responsibility in ways that transcended professional obligation and for a man who had lost his entire team in the Nexus conflict, that realization was as terrifying as it was inevitable. The forests surrounding the estate shuddered with the impact of energy weapons, splintering ancient oaks and sending wildlife scattering in panic. Dominic pulled both princesses behind a massive fallen trunk, his body positioned to shield them from the barrage. For attackers, possibly 5, he assessed, his breath controlled despite the chaos. Sweat and dirt streaked his face as he quickly surveyed their position. Military formation, using standard flanking maneuvers. 3 days had passed since the security breach, and Dominic had insisted on relocating the princesses to the estate's hunting cabin, a strategic decision that had likely saved their lives when the Amist house was attacked at dawn. They found us anyway. Vex hissed, her amethyst skin darkened to almost black with rage. The simplified armor Dominic had designed for her reflected dappled sunlight as she peered cautiously over their cover. They were counting on us fleeing. Along the main road, Dominic replied, quickly fashioning improvised weapons from the forest floor-sharpened branches and vines twisted into snares. They didn't expect us to go deeper into the wilderness. Talia watched his hands work with fascination, her silver eyes absorbing every detail of his methodical preparations. "What's your strategy?" Dominic's rare smile appeared, transforming his usually stern features. "We're not running from them. We're hunting them with practiced efficiency." He created a network of traps throughout their immediate area, tripwires, deadfalls, and pressure snares positioned to funnel their pursuers into predetermined locations. "Your sister and I will draw their attention," he instructed Talia, handing her one of the makeshift spears. "You circle behind and secure our escape route. If anything happens to us, run east toward the river. There's an emergency beacon hidden in the hollow oak near the bend." Talia's crystalline structures pulsed with anxiety. "I won't leave you. This isn't a debate, Your Highness." His voice softened slightly at her expression. 3 days ago, you couldn't even break a proper fall. Trust the training." The plan unfolded with military precision. Dominic and Vex created a diversion that drew their pursuers deeper into the trapped area, while Talia moved silently through the underbrush as he had taught her. The first attacker triggered a tripwire, sending a sharpened branch into their armored leg with enough force to penetrate. Their cry of pain echoed through the forest, followed by the satisfying sound of a second trap activating moments later. Now, Dominic signaled to Vex, who moved with surprising stealth for someone whose combat training had begun less than a week ago. They converged on the disoriented attackers from multiple angles. Dominic disabled one with a precision strike to their neural implantive vulnerability he had learned about during their discussions of Australis physiology. Vex handled another with the fluid defensive techniques they had practiced, her natural strength enhanced by proper leverage. When they regrouped with Talia, she was standing over an unconscious attacker, her makeshift spear held with trembling but determined hands. "He tried to flank you," she explained, her voice steady despite the adrenaline evident in her glowing temples. "I remembered what you taught us about vulnerable pressure points." Pride swelled unexpectedly in Dominic's chest. "You did well. Both of you." The final attacker remained conscious, secured against a tree with their own restraints. The insignia on their armor confirmed Vex's suspicions, the distinct obsidian triangle of the radical faction. "Who sent you?" Dominic demanded, his scarred hand gripping the attacker's throat with just enough pressure to ensure cooperation. The Australis operative's eyes darted between the princesses, widening with recognition despite their simplified attire. "The Obsidian Order sends its regards," they spat, their accent thicker than the princesses. "We will reclaim what belongs to our people." "The Alliance benefits all Australis citizens," Talia countered, stepping forward with newfound authority. "Our technologies exchanged for Earth's agricultural innovations will end the famine in our southern continents." "The Order doesn't want an end to suffering," Vex interjected, her voice bitter. "They want to control it. That's why they seek the starlight crystal." Dominic's head snapped toward her. "The what?" The captured operative laughed, a harsh sound that seemed to echo unnaturally. "He doesn't know. You've entrusted your safety to a human who doesn't even know what he's protecting." Dominic's jaw tightened as he turned to the princesses. What is he talking about? A heavy silence fell between them, broken only by distant forest sounds. Finally, Talia spoke, her silver eyes meeting his with renewed intensity. "We haven't been entirely truthful about our presence on Earth." "Dominic, we're not just diplomatic representatives," Vex continued, her stance defensive. "We're the guardians of the Starlight Crystalline artifact of immense power that could destabilize relations between our worlds if misused." The operative strained against their restraints. "It belongs to all Australis, not just the royal family." "What exactly does this crystal do?" Dominic asked, his tactical mind already recalibrating their security needs. Talia's expression grew solemn. "It amplifies our natural abilities, our connection to what you might call the quantum field. In the wrong hands, it could be weaponized against both our worlds. The Order has infiltrated your estate." The operative taunted. "We know the crystal's location. We know the royal encryption codes. It's only a matter of time." Dominic processed this new intelligence with military efficiency, his fingers tapping against his thigh as he formulated their next move. A traitor in the household, a powerful artifact at stake. and two aliens who were becoming far more important to him than any assignment should be. We need to move, he decided. Not back to the estate. They'll expect that. We need somewhere only the three of us know about, as they secured their prisoner and gathered what supplies they could salvage. Dominic caught Talia studying him with uncertain eyes. You're angry? We didn't tell you the truth, she observed. I'm recalculating our odds of survival, he corrected, checking his weapon methodically. The mission parameters have changed. The objective hasn't. Keep you both alive? Vex approached, her usual hostility tempered by something approaching respect. For a human, you adapt quickly. For royalty, you fight surprisingly well, he countered, which earned him the first genuine smile he'd seen from the fierce princess as they moved deeper into the wilderness. Dominic's training sessions continued now, with greater urgency and purpose. The forest became their classroom, survival their curriculum, and the growing connection between protector and protected their unexpected lesson. The Obsidian Order had made their first major move. Dominic would ensure it was also their last. The abandoned mining facility carved into the mountainside provided perfect concealment. Its entrance, obscured by decades of overgrowth, was visible only to those who knew exactly what to seek. For 3 days, Dominic had transformed the forgotten human structure into a defensible position, a task made easier by the princesses. Growing combat proficiency, the starlight crystal responds to royal DNA, Talia explained, her violet hands tracing ancient symbols onto a makeshift map. The luminescent dots along her hairline pulsed in rhythm with her concentration. It's why my sister and I were sent to Earth rather than keeping it on Australis. Our enemies would never expect the royal family to remove it from our world. Dominic studied the security measures they'd implemented: tripwires, surveillance points, and escape routes. His dark eyes narrowed as he processed this new information. So you're not just diplomatic representatives. You're decoys. We are both, Vex corrected, her amethyst skin catching the firelight as she maintained watch near the entrance. The past weeks had softened her rigid posture, though her vigilance remained undiminished. The alliance negotiations are genuine. Our presence here serves multiple purposes, including putting targets on your backs. Dominic muttered, his scarred fingers tapping against the rough stone table. Where is the crystal now? The sisters exchanged glances laden with silent communication, or habit that had initially frustrated Dominic, but which he now recognized as a lifetime of shared experiences. I'll show you, Talia said finally, rising from her seat. They descended deeper into the mining facility, past the living quarters they had established, and through narrower passages that Dominic had secured with additional defenses. Talia's natural bioluminescence provided sufficient light, casting ethereal patterns across the stone walls. Our guardian for 1,000 years, she explained as they walked. The crystal predates our written history. Some believe it's a fragment of the star our ancestors traveled from when they first came to Australis. They reached what appeared to be a dead end. Talia pressed her 6-fingered hand against an unremarkable section of wall. Her crystalline temple structures glowed brilliantly, and the stones seemed to ripple like water before parting to reveal a hidden chamber. Biorecognition technology, Dominic observed, professional admiration momentarily overriding his wariness. Much older than that, Talia smiled. What your scientists call quantum entanglement? We call the ancestral bond. The crystal responds to those with royal lineage. The chamber beyond was small but perfectly proportioned, its walls inscribed with symbols that seemed to shift and move when viewed directly. In the center, floating inches above a simple stone pedestal, hovered a crystal no larger than Dominic's fist. It defied conventional description, not quite solid, not quite light, but something between. Colors that had no names in human language pulsed from its core, and looking at it directly caused a strange sensation of falling inward. Jesus, Dominic breathed, his hand instinctively reaching for his weapon. Many have worshipped it, Vex said from behind them, having followed silently. Many have died for it. What exactly does it do? Dominic asked, careful not to step too close to the hovering crystal. Talia's expression grew solemn. Our species has natural psychic abilities, limited telepathy, minor telekinesis. The crystal amplifies these 1,000-fold. In the hands of our royal family, it has healed plagues and ended natural disasters. In the wrong hands, Dominic prompted. Mass suggestion. Mind control. Telekinetic destruction on a planetary scale, Vex stated flatly. The Obsidian Order believes such power should be used to elevate Australis above all other worlds beginning with Earth, Dominic's practical mind immediately processed the strategic implications. That's why the Earth-Australis Coalition formed the Interstellar Protection Agency. This isn't just about protecting two princesses, it's about preventing interplanetary war. Now you understand why we couldn't tell you everything initially, Talia said softly, her silver eyes seeking his. The fewer who know the crystal's true nature, the safer everyone remains. Except you, Dominic replied, his voice rougher than intended. You're still the primary targets. A distant alarm interrupted their conversation, one of the perimeter sensors. Dominic had installed. All three tensed, immediately shifting to combat readiness. Upper level. Western approach, Dominic confirmed, checking the small monitor strapped to his wrist. Single intruder. Could be a scout. They moved with practiced coordination, Vex taking point while Dominic covered their rear. Talia resealed the hidden chamber with a press of her hand, the stone rippling back into seamless wall. When they reached the upper level, they found Baxter, the estate's head of security, bleeding from a shoulder wound and collapsing against a support beam. Thank the stars, he gasped upon seeing them. The estate was compromised. Everyone is either captured or dead. Dominic approached cautiously, weapon ready. How did you find us? Emergency protocols? Baxter winced. Tracked the princess's biosignatures. Barely escaped the Order's forces. They're coming a full tactical team. Less than a day behind me. As Talia moved to attend to his wounds, Dominic caught her wrist, his expression grim. Wait, his dark eyes studied Baxter intently. The last communication protocol we established before leaving the estate. What was it? Confusion flickered across Baxter's weathered face. Encrypted channel through satellite relay. Dominic's weapon raised smoothly, aiming between Baxter's eyes. Wrong, we were using ground-based transmitters only. No satellites. Baxter's expression hardened, the pretense of injury forgotten as he reached for a concealed weapon. Dominic's reflexes proved faster, his strike precise and decisive. The man collapsed, unconscious, but alive. He's been the informant all along, Vex hissed, her amethyst skin darkening with fury. I trusted him for years. The Obsidian Order's reach is longer than we anticipated, Talia whispered. The betrayal evident in her voice. Dominic secured the unconscious traitor with restraints. If he found us, others won't be far behind. We need to prepare. That evening, as they fortified their position and prepared for the coming assault, Dominic found Talia alone near the hidden chamber. Her usual luminescence seemed dimmed by worry. My sister believes we should destroy the crystal, she said without preamble. End the threat permanently. Dominic leaned against the rough stone wall. Can it be destroyed? Theoretically. But doing so would sever our connection to our ancestors, to the very essence of what makes us. Australis, her silver eyes met his. Some costs are too high, even for peace. Something in her vulnerability stirred emotions. Dominic had kept carefully contained since the Nexus conflict. Why are you telling me this? Because tomorrow we may die defending it. She replied simply, and I wanted you to understand what we're fighting for. Her six-fingered hand reached for his scarred one, the contrast between them stark yet somehow fitting. It's not just about diplomatic relations or preventing war. It's about preserving what makes us who we are, both our peoples. Dominic's fingers intertwined with hers, the gesture crossing boundaries of professional duty and interspecies differences. I was hired to protect 2 alien princesses, he said, his voice low. I never expected ... to care. She finished when he hesitated. To find something worth fighting for again, he corrected. After the Nexus conflict, I thought that part of me was dead. Talia stepped closer, the crystalline structures at her temples glowing with emotion. Nothing truly dies, Dominic Reed. It only transforms, in the dim light of the abandoned mine. Protector and Protected stood at the threshold of something neither had anticipated, a connection that transcended their differences and united their purposes. Tomorrow would bring the Obsidian Order and their full might against 3 defenders and an ancient relic. But tonight, in the quiet darkness, something new and unexpected had taken root, something perhaps as powerful as the crystal they guarded. Dawn brought the unmistakable sound of approaching vehicles. The Obsidian Order had arrived in force. From his vantage point on the ridge, Dominic counted at least 20 operatives in tactical formation, their specialized equipment suggesting they had come prepared for a prolonged siege. "They know we're here," he informed the princesses as he returned to their defensive position. "Standard pincer movement. They'll try to flush us out with suppression fire and capture you both alive." Vex checked her makeshift weapon, a mining tool Dominic had modified into something lethal. "The crystal is their priority. They need us only to access it. Then we use that against them," Dominic replied, his tactical mind mapping multiple scenarios simultaneously. Over the past weeks, he had transformed the princesses from vulnerable targets into capable fighters. But they remained outnumbered and outgunned. "We need to split their forces." The plan they formulated was dangerous, but offered their only chance of success. Dominic would create a diversion at the western entrance, while Talia appeared to flee with a decoy. Crystal toward the eastern ridge. Vex would remain hidden near the true chamber, preparing their final surprise. "If this fails," Talia said softly as they made final preparations, her violet fingers adjusting Dominic's improvised armor, "I want you to know that Astralis will honor your sacrifice for generations." Dominic caught her hand, holding it against his chest. "This won't fail. Remember your training. Trust your instincts." He hesitated, then added, "Trust me." Her silver eyes held his. "Always." The first explosion rocked the mountainside as Dominic's carefully placed charges detonated, sending a cascade of rocks and debris onto the Order's forward position. In the confusion, he emerged, firing with precision, each shot finding vulnerability in their specialized armor weaknesses he had learned from Talia's detailed knowledge of Astralis technology. 3 operatives fell before they realized they faced only one defender. When they regrouped to pursue, Dominic disappeared into the network of tunnels he had memorized, drawing them deeper into his prepared killing ground. Across the mountain, Talia fled with deliberate visibility, the false crystal glowing convincingly in her grasp. Her movements displayed the panic of a retreating princess rather than the calculated precision Dominic had taught her. A second team of operatives pursued, exactly as planned. Inside the mountain's heart, Vex waited in perfect stillness, her amethyst skin darkened to near invisibility in the shadows. The true crystal chamber remained sealed, accessible only through her royal DNA, final defense if all else failed. Dominic led his pursuers through a series of narrowing passages, eliminating them one by one with the traps he had established over the past days. His special forces training, combined with intimate knowledge of the terrain, transformed the abandoned mine into a lethal maze. When only 2 remained, he engaged them directly, his human strength compensating for their superior technology. The fight was brutal and efficient, ending with both operatives unconscious and secured. Across the mountain, Talia's pursuers discovered too late that they had been lured into a trap. The false crystal she carried detonated with a localized electromagnetic pulse, disabling their weapons and communication devices. Her combat training proved devastatingly effective as she disabled 3 attackers before retreating deeper into the forest, drawing the remaining forces away from the mountain. At the main entrance, the Obsidian Order's commander, a tall figure with obsidian implants, visible across her gray skin, directed the final assault team toward the hidden chamber. Somehow, they had located its position despite Dominic's precautions. "The royal line ends today," she announced, as her team placed explosive charges against the seemingly solid rock wall. "The crystal returns to its people." The charges detonated, revealing the ancient chamber beyond. The commander stepped forward expectantly, then froze at the sight that greeted her. Vex stood beside the pedestal, her hands positioned around the floating crystal without touching it. Her amethyst skin had taken on the same shifting qualities as the relic, and her eyes glowed with power beyond her individual abilities. "The crystal has always belonged to the people," she stated, her voice resonating with unusual authority. "Through their chosen guardians." The commander raised her weapon. "Step aside, princess. Even you cannot withstand disintegration." "She doesn't have to," Domenic announced from behind, his weapon pressed against the commander's head. "Lower your weapon or die where you stand." The standoff extended for one tense heartbeat before the commander made her choice, spinning to fire at Domenic. His reaction was faster, precise shot that disabled rather than killed. As the remaining operatives realized their leader had fallen, Talia appeared at the second entrance, her violet skin glowing with exertion and triumph. "Your forces are defeated. Surrender now." The Obsidian Order operatives, facing coordinated opposition from both princesses and their human protector, lowered their weapons, one by one. In the aftermath, as Earth's security forces arrived to take custody of the prisoners, Domenic found himself standing with the princesses before the still-hovering crystal. "What happens now?" he asked, the adrenaline of battle fading into the uncertainty of victory. Talia's six-fingered hand found his. "The crystal remains on Earth, under joint protection. The Alliance continues, stronger for having survived this test." "In us?" Domenic asked, the question encompassing complexities beyond professional duty. Vex, surprisingly, answered first. "The Royal Guard on Australis could benefit from your training methods." A hint of respect had replaced her initial hostility. "Our council would welcome your expertise, and I would welcome your continued protection," Talia added softly, the crystalline structures at her temples glowing with emotion that required no translation. Domenic looked between the alien princesses Elia's gentle wisdom and Vex's fierce loyalty and realized how profoundly they had changed him. The man who had arrived at their estate, burdened by past failures and emotional detachment, was not the same man who stood before them now. "I was hired to protect twin alien princesses," he said, echoing his words from the night before. "I never expected to find a new purpose." As they sealed the hidden chamber and prepared for departure, Dominic's hand remained linked with Talia's. Their different physiologies, no barrier to the connection they had forged through danger and trust. The starlight crystal would continue its silent watch, guarded now not just by ancient royal lineage, but by something equally powerful, an alliance built on respect, forged in combat and transformed by unexpected emotion. For Domenic Reed, former Special Forces operative turned interstellar protector, the mission had evolved from professional obligation to personal commitment. The boundaries between protector and protected had blurred, creating something new and unprecedented. Bridge between worlds that began with duty but had grown into something far more profound. And as they emerged from the mountain into Earth's sunlight, the future stretched before them, uncertain, challenging, but faced together.